And start out by the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we start into a new year on it, one of the first things that we do is we have election of officers for chairman and vice chairman of Whitley County Council. And with that being said, I'd like to nominate Thor Hodges for being chairman.
I'll second.
Take your pick, Jana.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor signify by your right hand. Opposed, the same. Along with the same breath, we need to do a vice chair, and we'll take nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Chad Banks.
I'll second that.
Kim seconds it. Any discussion? Those in favor signify by your right hand. Opposed, the same. Time to change chairs.
Yeah. See if I can get her on with it.
Get the smile off your face, John.
Bring your name tags.
Kim, I thought you wasn't going to be here.
I had my dates mixed up. I don't go till morning.
I did that.
Senior moments, he's starting to get them senior.
So I just wanted to get out of
Don't
there.
you forget that bag when you go now.
No, they're going to behave.
Joe, press the red button.
Never knew they were.
They got a newborn foal out
I've
there.
got my own red button.
Got a newborn foal.
Oh, did they really? I didn't go, Barb went down with her last night, but I didn't go.
Well, with the election of officers being complete, then we'll move along to the second item on our agenda, which would be Paul Worden and Julie Jensen-Kelley on their 2018-19 grant application.
Good morning, happy New Year to everyone. Julie and I are here, just wanted to follow up, see if you had any questions about the packet I mailed out. And Julie's also passing out a new report that Leanne has put together, a dashboard report. It just shows a comparison from detention and work release for 2016, 2017, as well as overall collections. There's no copy. Okay, there. Sorry. I got into, that's my packet, probably.
Paula, somebody either retires or goes to another job, do you have trouble finding help now, or is that not such a problem?
I'm sorry, what?
I said, as people either retire or go to another job, are you finding it hard to find employees?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to say about the sheriff, recruiting for our profession is becoming more and more difficult, retention. So the field is very challenging, obviously with the painkillers and the use. It's like we're not seeing a lot of success stories. So yeah, it's definitely becoming more challenging to find individuals that want to stay in the field and are committed to the profession. Yeah, and that's one thing in our grant, we're asking for another full-time residential shift supervisor, just because we can't keep part-time.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to try to get one more full-time residential shift supervisor in this grant that we're writing right now.
A lot of discipline problems out there.
Not so much discipline, it's just retention. It's just not an appealing field. In the job market.
I meant far as people staying there.
Yeah. Oh, offenders? Oh,
Yeah.
yes. It's a revolving door between us and the jail.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about grant funds, does that stay strong, or?
Yeah, we're solid. Our grant has never been reduced. We've been fortunate each time that we've asked for additional funds. We may not have received all the funds we've requested, but we've received at least a portion. So, we're entering our 28th year of funding, and we've never had any cuts. So we have a lot of support at the state and collaboration. I try to communicate with them as much as possible what we're doing locally. So I think that's helped as far as the support we receive there. In our grant that we're writing right now, like I said, we are asking for one additional full-time shift supervisor along with the Veterans Treatment Court. That was a 2-year funding period, so we have to try to seek funding for that position as well.
That grant would cover the
Yeah, it's due January 31st. And that would be for 2/18, 2/19, beginning July 1.
In your retention of employees, does it have to do with salary, the type of position that they are in?
They never mention salary, really. I mean, it's more, I think, the stress, or we can't offer them full-time.
We have people that are working full-time jobs and want a part-time job, and they oftentimes burn out because they're probably
Yeah.
working 7 days a week. And then the others who are wanting to get their foot in the door, get the part-time position, and then they are still seeking full-time elsewhere, and usually get jobs in the sheriff's department.
Sheriff still some.
The sheriff's still some. So, I think the wage is very fair, and we've never had a complaint about the part-time wage.
Questions about the packet?
Thank you, though,
And let us know, like, if there's any additional information you want, put together some grade reports. So if there's information that would be helpful to you, just let me know, and I'll put it together for it. Thank you.
Amy, I understand you have part of this grant?
Yes, my grant request to the VOC is just to continue funding the probation officer that's under the VOC grant, as well as my field officer. So I'm not asking for anything new, just their increased salaries and benefits from them, which at this point, over the last 2 years, they've been funded 100% by the grant. So I've asked for those increases. We're not guaranteed that, so I may be having to ask for additional funding to possibly cover that or use the fees. But at this point, that's what I'm not asking for anything new.
Very good. Any questions of Amy?
Thanks for the report. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then the next item on the agenda will be Sheriff Gatton, please.
Morning. First thing is, it's not on the agenda, just Adam met with me last week. It's on a radio upgrade for some dead spots we have in the eastern part of the county.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It was a little warmer today, so.
This is Adam Hurley from
surprisingly.
JK, if anybody doesn't know him.
Here's the majority of you. I've seen his kind face before.
What this is an upgrade for our backbone. I don't want to get too deep into technical stuff unless you guys want me to. It's just kind of an overview, and if you guys want me to get a little deeper into it, I will, okay? But there's a 6-site VHF system out there right now for the Sheriff's Department, and there's new technology to bring back all that information from each site into the digital world. So it's an upgrade for that. On top of that, there's a dead spot out on 30 East. This would include that in the site out there to take care of the problem. So those guys.
What does this do? What does it do? I know, but tell us.
So each site, whenever you key up your radio, the system says you need to talk off Laurel, or you need to talk off South Whitley or the Columbia City site. That's what's making the decision. This piece of equipment we're putting in will make that decision. It makes it quicker. So if you listen to the radio traffic right now, you'll hear really nasty white noise, and then it'll clear up. Well, that's because it picked the right site. That's because it's old technology, the old analog stuff. New digital make it quick.
Make it quicker.
Don't have much trouble with RFI or anything like that anymore, do you?
Not to my knowledge. I know we don't.
Does this upgrade include placing a new repeater?
No, it has nothing to do with the repeater, just the backhaul side of it.
Where will this be located at?
Each site, so all the outlying sites plus the Sheriff's Department. So you got Farm Creek, Waterwell, Smith Township. The new site will be at 600 East and 30, Jefferson, South Whitley, and the Sheriff.
Where would the antenna or whatever it is be placed?
It's just hardware at the bottom right now. There's a piece there. We're just gonna take that piece out, put the new piece in to make it work, okay? It's just,
So there's no additional location needed for antenna or anything like
the
that?
only additional one would be the one on 600 East that we're gonna add to the system. And that one's gonna go on the water tower out there, 600 East and 30.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's cool.
Where's this money supposed to come from? Lloyd or what?
That's up to you guys.
You got money, Lloyd?
Do, but that's where I was gonna ask for confinement staff from.
The general fund got enough money to do that.
The increases that you're going to ask for, Mark, out of for the jailers eat up the entire cum cap, or is there going to be any money still? Or the low I'm sorry. So it'd still be funds in there?
Out of two of the three. The low will only fund two of the three places.
28,000 per piece of hardware.
Probably ought to take that out of the general fund, Jim, I think, 'cause
I have a question. You say it's gonna be located on the water tower out there.
Yes, sir.
You get approval for that?
From the county, yes. We'll have to go out and ask.
Not in the counties anymore, is it?
no, it's the cities.
Is it city? We've got a really good relationship with them. We'll ask them and get approval. If not, we'll find a location out there. That's just the initial. Once you guys approve it, we'll make it work.
Do you have equipment there now?
Well, yes, on the city side, we do their skating equipment. So we have an antenna on top right now.
Essentially, it shouldn't cost the city anything for you to...
It won't cost me nothing.
What about is there any additional insurance or anything that needs to be put on this for lightning or anything like that?
That's in here, isn't it?
Lightning suppressor there. I guess we didn't look at that avenue. If there is, it'd be a very minimal to the system. I mean, it's not that much out there at the new site. There's already insurance on each site that's covered by the fire departments today. So like for Thorn Creek example, we just put it on our own insurance and cover it. So if it gets hit by lightning, we take care of it.
I'd move we approve that with the money coming from the general fund. I don't want it coming from the Lloyd account, because the sheriff was gonna have something bigger to talk about on that.
I hate to ding the general fund too much this early in the year. No healthier than it is.
What's our operating expenses on the general fund starting this year? And John, the recommendation for that was supposed to be where? Do you remember?
Which?
On the general fund for operating?
We have sufficient funds to cover it throughout the year?
No, the meeting that we had, what did they suggest that we should have in the, when we met down in the basement with the,
Do you know, Jenna?
It was like
George, what about CETA?
We do have additional funds for CETA.
I'd be more apt, since it's in that area out there, I'd be more apt for it to come out of there.
Stephen?
Okay.
And I guess the way the commissioners think about it is that if that $81,000 payment still to to Star on the equipment itself, we just
Comfortable with seated than general.
Yeah, I am too.
We got money to
You have a
do.
motion on the floor, so.
yeah, we do have a motion. Bill, would you want to stick with your motion and we'll seek a second, or do you want to modify it?
Yeah, I'll stick with that motion.
That it comes out of the general and then we approve it? I'll call for a second.
The motion is what now?
That we approve the project
Yes.
and pay for it out of the county general.
General, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. I would ask for further discussion. I would suggest that I am in favor of the project, and even though it's outside of the parameters of what we're asking for information to be brought to us, I think it's a very important project for communication for the deputies, so I think that we need to move on it. But I would suggest that we don't take it out of the general fund, because our general fund is not very healthy right now. I think that it should come out of CEDA.
Well, we got a motion to dispose of.
Right, that's discussion of my.
Dispose of before we
Just
vote on it.
his
discussion.
discussion. It's just his discussion point.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of this motion, let's respond by raising your right hand. And I had John and Bill that voted, and all those opposed, right hand. The motion fails. This time I would call for a second motion from the council.
I move that
Another
we-
motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve with those funds coming from CEDA, that we fund it from CEDA.
We can't do that without commissioners putting it in their seated plan.
I would hope that you recognize at the end of the year, I think the commissioners took out a seat at right around 300,000. That we transferred to county general. Balance. Not last year, year before. Balance. county
Right.
general.
That's the problem we have with taking too much out of general.
Yeah. But we're trying to do what we can with that seated also. and
Yeah,
make
we
sure-
appreciate that.
But I'm sure, in talking to the other commissioners, that if county general doesn't have the monies, that it's, of course, that it's an important program that we need to fund and
Was this something you need to check on before we bring it to a vote, Judge?
So I'll rescind my motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take it back to the commissioners and let them get a favorable vote on taking it out of seated and have it, bring it back to us at our next council meeting.
we did give a favorable pass to it at our meeting yesterday, but it wasn't through seated, it was just a favorable pass to.
So can we make a motion upon approval of this particular seated project by the commissioners? Can we make a motion upon their approval that we would then can do it?
I think we can, and then that would get it
Expedite.
moving 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah, that's
Move
forward on
forward
it.
That's probably be a good move because it needs
Yeah,
to get
that would
done.
expedite it possibly.
I would ask for a motion worded that way.
I make a motion upon it.
Well, I'm sorry,
Chad? Well,
you got.
he had a motion.
He rescinded.
I
it.
rescinded the
Oh, you
motion,
rescinded.
so John, go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
I make a motion that upon the approval of the seeded funds from the three county commissioners, that we go ahead and move forward with the project on it and make approval through our county council upon their approval.
I'll second that.
Glenn's with the second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion in the second, respond by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same, and it passed unanimously.
Does that work for you, George?
Yeah, that's great.
So there'll be a slight delay there, but, I mean, it's just a matter of having the okay and you can get the project done how quickly.
It'll probably be in March. The equipment won't be available till the end of February.
So we're not in that much of a hurry then anyway.
Not really. I mean, it'll help me get my site equipment
You're
put
gonna-
out there, but as far as the hardware to follow,
Have you got it ordered yet, or will you order it?
I will order it. Yep.
Some way or other, we will make it happen.
As soon as it clears the commissioner's office, it'll report. Thank you, guys.
That makes me nervous.
Did everybody get the packet, chance to look at it? A couple things have happened here recently that I consider the jail headed toward a critical state. Had 3 guards hurt during inmate to staff altercations since September 23rd of 2017. All have either been placed on light duty or we've lost work and had medical procedures need to take place for that staff. As you can see from the paperwork I've given you, the jail is way understaffed by 13 officers at the time. We've gained 1, we've gained a full-time transport since then, and 1 sergeant, but that was also a guard. So we're 12 short at this present time. At times on the jail floor, the inmate to staff ratio is 1 to 60 inmates. I need 3 people on staff on the floor for disciplinary problems when they need to go in a restraint chair, because that's the policy written and the recommendations of the company of the chair. I only have 2, so we have to either call in people off the road or sometimes the city comes in and helps with that also. We also, starting January 1st of this year, under Senate Bill 322, the jail staff is responsible during intake process to do a DNA swab for the state of Indiana. That's something we were just trained on in late November, I think the class was, and the staff's up to it. We've already run into problems where people don't want their swabs taken. So I don't want the staff to have to fight with them over a DNA swab, so.
What's the procedure, Mark, and they refuse?
Well, it's considered part of the booking process now, so we could keep them up front, not give them a phone call until they complied, but I guess we're probably going to push the envelope because I'm not going to have staff fight with them over a DNA swab right now. Unless, of course, it would be court ordered, then we'll have to. But that's something we had no control over. It was just passed and we were told we were doing it. Indiana's the 31st state to go to that, and the Supreme Court says it's constitutional. So. My big concern right now is for the staff safety and also for the inmate safety. Later today I'll be conversing with the state jail inspectors. He sent me an email yesterday for another non-compliance issue of our jail. And a lot of it has to do with staffing. So what I'm coming to you for is to ask for 3 confinement officers and then go back to the jail task force and lay out a plan to hopefully continue to hire over the next 4 to 5 years to get up to staffing. We did reach out in September to the National Institute of Corrections to come do a assessment on our jail. Speaking with George, we thought that was moving forward. In October, it looked like it was going good, and then in November, I received an email from Mr. Jackson from there stating that the U.S. Department of Justice had run out of money for that program and we were no longer going to be able to have that assessment, which is why I think George came and asked to have moved forward in other areas. We were given 180 days to be in compliance with the letter you guys seen. That was from the date it was written, so the way 180 days, the way I figured it is January 23rd of this month, 2017. We were hoping to have that study done. We're not going to be able to have that study done, so what I'm asking to show a good faith in moving forward is 3 officers now. I met with Jana. Their salary for this year is $41,639. She confirmed that the Lowit can sustain 2 officers right now out of it, and the third requesting would have to be decided on you guys where to be funded from.
That 41,000, that does not take into account social security, perf, insurance. You know what that totals up to for an employee?
Ballpark figure.
It all depends on wage, it's percentage,
Mark, where are you at on your comprehensive plan as far as what the state jail inspector requested from the commissioners?
We have another meeting next Wednesday. I stated yesterday in the meeting, I have some possible new ways that are going to be very, what I consider financially expensive to the county. One, to get into compliance is going to be at the population we're running right now, would be to be shipping 40 to 50 inmates out to other facilities to get to 80%. Even if we get to 80%, the staffing analysis that was done, that we still need that amount of staff. It used to be $35 a day. People that are housing now seem to have taken this into raising, on the average, it's $50 to $60 a day for an inmate to stay somewhere else. So we're looking realistically between $500,000 and $700,000 to house inmates elsewhere. The second thing would be offering overtime to try to eliminate some of this, but the jail staff, I'll be honest, the way the jail is anymore, is getting burnt out. They look for their 2 days off. It's changed so much. We had 5 either medical or suicidal watches at one time going on, which to me is dangerous in itself, because you have one guard that's supposed to be watching those while the other 2, if we only have 2 on the floor in the back, plus he's supposed to watch the monitors, answer the phone, open the doors. So the jail's changing. As we all know, we're getting more and more substance abuse in there, and more mental problems. So those are 2 of the options we can do. The other is, we'll work on is the, help me out here, what's the program, what's it stand for here? Technical rule violation, possibly move some of those inmates out of the facility into a new facility, which in return is also going to cost the county more staffing, a building.
Yeah.
And if we would have to comply by housing them elsewhere, I'll be paying a lot of overtime to the transport and deputies, because the court issue is going to come in effect. We would, of course, try to transfer people that are sentenced, so we don't have to go after them as much, but logistically it's going to cause a big problem.
What's the time frame that we need to have a comprehensive plan in place with a way to fund it, or at least a idea of a way to fund it, to submit to the state to satisfy what they're asking of us?
We have to have our initial plan in by January 23rd.
And do we have a plan that's initiated as far as something on paper, as far as the additional, creating an additional facility to house people ourselves?
What we're planning right now is we've got a meeting coming up the 10th, and as part of that meeting, an extension, we'll be asking for an extension from the state also. As long as they know that we're going forward in this, that's what they're looking for. They're not looking to put an additional burden on us right away, but they want to make sure that we're doing planning for taking care of the situation. So, again, that'll be an extension. We'll probably ask for a 6-month extension on this, because we do have a jail assessment survey that's going on right now.
Where do you find jailers? I mean, I've done some real research on this, and Whitley County's not the only county that has this problem.
Correct.
I mean, you can take about, well, I think there's only maybe 3 or 4 in the state of Indiana that don't have this problem. So where do you, even if you have the okay to go out here and hire all these jailers, where do you find them?
We just start putting out that were taking apps. And we've had ups and downs. We've had where we've interviewed up to 19 and, you know, we weren't real impressed with all the applicants. And then this last time, I think we interviewed 12. And there's probably 5 out of it that we'd hire. And we've hired 3. We have another one leaving this Friday will be her last day. She's taking another job. But as Paula said, it's a turnover rate. Either that or Paul and I are stealing each other's employees.
Do you think the turnover has to do with what they're being compensated or not compensated? Or do you think that has to do with most of the people you're losing is kind of it's a stair-step job when they come into it?
Some of them are stair steps to move on to other law enforcement careers or other facilities. Others come in and find out that jail environment's not for them and they just move on, or they move closer to home, you know, they work closer to home. As far as the compensation for counties our size, I think we're in the ballpark for that, so.
I've talked to a couple of ex-jailers, and that's gotta be the worst job in the world, from, I get the description from some of them. But just so I can understand why you might have trouble getting people to take that job.
More so now than ever before.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole environment of the jail has changed. I mean, with the help of probation community corrections, it's hard sometimes to even fill their slots for positions because we don't have, I guess people that meet the requirements or qualified people to go there.
Such a lack of respect for the authority.
I know on an average morning, I have 2 to 3 incident reports that take place on usually second, third shift with jail problems every day.
Sounds to me like no matter what we're gonna do, it's gonna be very expensive.
Janice shared with me it'd be about an additional $16,000 per officer.
On top of the 40.
Yeah, on top of the 41. Mark, what's 3 officers going to do for you? How will that help you with your staffing? Maybe just explain to us all how many jailers you have now and how your shifts are scheduled or how they're staffed.
Right now, we have 19. That's counting jail commander and sergeants. For you, this will be a little easier to understand. We try to staff first and seconds heavier than thirds because of the lockdown all night long. We don't have enough staffing right now, even with when we have 3 on the floor and 1 in our control room, to still man the satellites. During the day, we try to keep 3 because we have the nurse has nurse call, so they have to be with the inmates and the nurse the full time. She's up front with them. And the other 2 are working the floor, you know, passing the meals, responding to calls in the back from the block calls. So it would be funded, if they would get funded, they would be divided between first and second shifts, and we always try to have an extra person on court day too.
So out of your 19 that you have on staff now, how many of those are management that you don't really staff as far as working the floor?
That'd only be Sean.
Just Sean?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I have a question. You said something about manning the satellites, and do we man the satellites even if we don't have somebody in the control room?
We always have to have somebody in the control room now, because they're the ones that run the doors and do everything.
I was just looking at sure, but I was looking at just what I read on the packet was that you're not staffing them 24 hours a day.
Yeah, we don't have the manpower to staff them.
The control room?
The satellite.
Okay.
So you're asking for 3 people, and those 3 people would enable you to be in compliance with staffing the satellite 100% of the time?
No, they would not.
So we're still not even going to be in compliance?
No, we're making according to the statute, we're making a good faith effort towards it. We would not ever be in compliant with that, Thor, until we could get 5 people per shift working.
And right now you have how many per shift? 3 all the time?
3 all the time, 4 on a couple days on first and seconds. And we have, as a county and as a group, we have moved forward from some of these. Like I said, we added one, a year ago, 2 years ago. We added a full-time transport. We added one more sergeant, but apparently we're not moving fast enough anymore for the state. So these reports I gave you came from three different, during the time I've been there, three different inspectors, so.
And the purpose of a sergeant is just basically so that the rest of the crew has somebody to offer suggestions. He's kind of like just a leader's all.
Yeah, they call it reducing your liability, so.
They're still playing an active role as far as
Yeah, the
job
sergeant's
duties.
still working the floor and doing some minor, I shouldn't say minor, been delegated some other duties that are paperwork related, but they're still actively working the floor too.
Sergeant issue is a different issue than the additional employees, confinement employees.
Correct.
So we need to make a decision on whether we make an additional 3 confinement officers or not with this particular issue. Correct?
Correct.
We get these 3 confinement officers and the plan to the state by the 23rd of what we're planning on doing, that keep us out of trouble for a while.
I can't answer for him completely. I feel it's a
George said he's planning on asking for a 6-month extension to have that comprehensive plan prepared. So,
but I feel that shows a good effort moving forward, yeah.
And there's low funds to do that.
2 for 2, and then the other 32,000 out of the general to support those 2 for taxes and Social Security insurance and so forth. Mark, what would 2 do for you? Or what would 2 not do for you? I mean, I know you're asking for 3, but how does that affect your plan?
It will just affect the plan in the long run, Thor, of adding them at a later time. I mean, it's gonna help, Thor. It's not gonna answer everything right now, but it'll help move forward.
We're kind of between a rock and a hard place.
We are.
We're about gonna have to do it. What's the consequences if we don't from the state?
We've heard these threats for years, the same thing. This isn't the first time.
No. That probably leaves us hanging out for big time liability in that jail too, doesn't it, if we don't do it?
Well, as you all know, the jail's a liability all the time, but
Yeah.
from what I've read, I mean, they could throw an injunction on us and make us empty the jail.
Where you send them? I mean, if everybody else in the state is, I mean, you talked about housing earlier, if everybody else in the state's in the same position, where do you send them? Out to Paula?
No, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if you could find a place to, are you gonna have, if you ship some out, are you gonna have a hard time finding a place to send them?
Noble County is available.
Noble County has some space. We've already spoke with them.
But not that kind of space up there.
No.
Well, last I heard, they only had 5 inmates. That's probably changed, hasn't it?
They have changed. They are doing the housing route right now.
Oh, so they're making money.
Yes.
They're just not sentencing their own people.
We used to make.
Well, there's been a request. I guess at this time I'll call for a motion.
I think knowing that those insurance and perf is gonna come out of county general, it's 32,000, and it's tight already. We understand that the funding for the 2 positions is gonna come from Lowit. So I guess at this time, until we can come up with a better plan for the 3rd, I'd make a motion that we approve 2 funding from Lowit
With the county general paying for their,
For the 40,000.
County general paying for perf and insurance.
and there's enough in Lowit to cover 2 positions?
Two salary adjustments too today.
Yeah, we would open it up for 14 days for applications.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Moving forward, I will second.
We have a motion and we have a second. I call for further discussion.
Why wouldn't you take the insurance out of Lowit too? The other, or take it all out of Lowit instead of part of it out of general fund?
I don't think the money's there. So we could take it out of Lowit, it would just have to be appropriated from,
I don't know if this.
Would it be most ideal to fund it from general? And the salaries from Lowit?
can you share with me, maybe other people, why that's the way you would do it? Why that's most ideal?
Well, I think it's because, again, that's how, well, it's pretty much in the payroll system, you have to have.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, it does. And that's the insight I was looking for. I didn't understand that. We have a motion and a second. I'd call for any further discussion. This time we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented for the 2 new jailer's positions, respond by raising your right hand. And opposed, the same, and it passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Mark, while you and George are here, in some of our jail task force meetings they talked about the changing of the bond issues and OR on it. Has any more additional information come in on how that's going to reduce our jail population?
Well, I think that's what they're studying right now. They kicked that, it was supposed to be in operation as of January 17 or 18, and now they've kicked it out to January of 20. And
Okay.
so,
Different state.
yeah.
Okay.
You went right in there.
I don't think anybody really knows how it's going to affect. It's going to affect community corrections, it's going to affect the jail, but we don't know exactly how and how bad.
And we haven't had the meeting where all of us and the judges have got together where they're gonna make the decision on what.
Thank you.
That's here. No, that's John.
The only thing, the other thing to update, that I spoke with the commissioners, back to Jody and the IT, we still haven't, George talked, or did you talk or email Mike yesterday?
Yeah. I talked to Mike.
They still don't have her job done, he doesn't have her job description done. I'm going to need moved forward to put a request for proposal out because I have computer work that's not getting completed at the department, so I just wanted to give you the heads up on that.
What's the holdup with it, George?
I don't know, he said he had some personal issues and he'd have everything done by the end of this week for us. But I told him, we were hoping to have that for the meeting today, but I'll be frank with you, I'm not I'm a little concerned for what we've been dealing with him. He's not been very responsive about everything, and I'm hoping that it turns out well, but I'm concerned.
After our check,
We go on Sandy.
But it's only, I think, 7,000 weekly so far, out of the 25.
I don't think we're
But we'll see, when his report comes in, we'll see what he comes up with, and hopefully the report comes out well, and we can deal with that, and it's comprehensive. But I do have to tell you that I'm concerned about it.
Sure.
Is that all you have, Mark? Since you got up and left. I assumed, but I wanted to make sure. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is the board appointments. This is going to be kind of a workshop for me, because as I was going through some of these, I don't know what they are. So,
First question I would have is, are all these committees active?
No.
No, there's some.
which ones are not active?
Going down here, the Personnel Committee now, we're not sure exactly how that's going to be formed. So that's actually a question mark. Region 3A is not active.
Which part of Region 3A? The non-executive or development?
Both of them.
Both of them?
And then our Fleet Safety Committee is under the Safety Committee. That's been combined. Other than that,
Should we add one with Jail Task Force Committee?
I think that'd be great if we did that.
I'm sorry, now, say that again.
Jail Task Force Committee?
That's not on here?
No, it is not.
Who is on that?
That is Councilman Barrett, John LaFever, Sheriff Gatton, Paula, Worden, DJ Sigler, the prosecutor. We've got both of the judges, Judge Ball and Judge Rentschler. We have the jail commander, Sean Martin. We have our
County Attorney.
County Attorney, Matt Shipman. We have Dan Sigler, who's also on that committee. That's about it.
So the council just has one representative on that, though, is what we need to be concerned with, though.
Well, we probably need to, this has been an ad hoc committee that we just formed real quick after we got the letter. And so commissioners have not really determined, we really need to sit down and look at how many appointments that council gets, what commissioners get. But hopefully we'll have that by the end of the year here to get things going. For next year's appointments.
I think for this purposes, we need one member of council on it.
Yeah.
What is the parcel committee? What are their responsibilities?
Person committee, it's someone from it's Nathan Builder, Brandon Forrester, myself, Jamie Gatton, just pretty much a person from each office upstairs, and we go over and review all splits and combine.
And Glenn, what's the emergency management committee do?
We meet about 2 to 3 times a year, or every quarter.
Walls on that, or what's the purpose of it?
The purpose is kind of keeping control of what we do and what we don't do, and trying to maintain just ideas that we meet and go over the past and ideas how to better serve the community.
Kim, I think I'm gonna have the same question for the EMS Oversight Committee. What does that committee do?
Well, we meet with the emergency management person, not one from the county, but Dwayne Ginder from Parkview. We meet not near as much as we used to, because when we used to have control of the EMS, that was a committee formed to keep an eye on Parkview, make sure they were doing what they said they would do, and also same with the county, make sure but now that we don't have that we meet maybe once or twice a year, and that's about it. It's basically to go over the EMS service for Whitley County.
Okay. All right, does anybody else have any questions? I mean, I didn't expect you guys to, but you've been here a while, but I...
Just go down through them and...
All right, so we'll start, with the Community Corrections Advisory Board. I'm currently on that. Those meetings are hard for me to make sometimes, but I do enjoy being on that committee, and I would stay on that committee unless there's someone else who would like to take a turn on that committee. I think it's important that maybe we switch things around and everybody gets well-rounded on the different tasks. So I would stay on that, but I would also welcome somebody else to take a year on that if they so choose.
Make a motion, we leave Thor on the Community Corrections Advisory Board.
I'll second. That's,
We have to vote on these?
not
I was gonna say,
necessarily, I don't think so.
Why don't we just do them as a whole and vote on it as the whole thing?
So Community Corrections Advisory Board is set. We'll move on to the EDC committee. Currently, it's Jim Bayman, Bill Overdeer, and Chad Banks. Is there anybody who, that I did not mention that would like to be on that committee, or anybody that would like to beg off of that committee?
I don't think we've ever had a meeting.
I tell you what that was formed for, I think, and you remind me if I'm wrong, but I think when companies have come in here over the years, commissioners, have you got somebody on that too? I didn't even pay attention to your committees. You do, don't you? You don't? Well, anyway, in years past, if a company was coming in, we've been in meetings where Bill and I's been there, and the commissioner's been there, maybe two commissioners, somebody from Northeastern REMC, somebody maybe from the railroad, the city, just various people, meeting with this company and talking about whatever, we would say, Bill and I would say, hey, you will have no problem getting a tax abatement from the consul, and the city would say, we're going to provide you what you need in the way of water and sewage out that way, and REMC with their thing, the railroad, whatever. But we've met occasionally with companies.
Yeah, but it's been
a long time since we've had them. We had Menards at one time was going to locate a huge center in here, a regional type thing. We met with them and talked with them and told them what we could provide and do, and that's what that committee was formed for. But it's been a long time since we've met. I think.
Actually, John Mayer pretty much does what we did.
Do we need that committee?
I don't think we do.
I think we could disband it, and if the occasion arose where some company was coming in, then you could send whoever you wanted to send out there to meet with them.
We could form a committee.
Yeah.
John, would you like to weigh in on that since you're here?
Yeah, I don't, typically what I do is I'll contact the president of the council and whoever the EDC board is, and then we'll try and figure out kind of who the appropriate folks are to meet. So if we had something coming to South Whitley, for instance, we'd get in touch with Jim and he'd be there, kind of a local thing. So I don't know that this is necessary.
All right, so do we need to have it in the form of a motion to eliminate that committee?
I'll move that.
No, we just eliminate it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll eliminate the EDC committee. And that'll take us on to the EMS Oversight Committee.
I don't know how long that's gonna, do you, George? How long do you think that'll stay in?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We really haven't had any meetings. What Parkview does now is they send us a monthly report all the times, and
I think Tom serves on that.
yeah.
What do you think, Tom? You think they're gonna continue meetings, or?
Oh, maybe once or twice a year.
I guess it wouldn't hurt to still have it.
Still have it, okay.
It's just kind of a liaison between just
If somebody would like to serve on it, that's,
Who'd like to be on the EMS Oversight Committee?
Kim, why don't you stay on it? You've been in that position and you know the ins and outs.
okay. We'll stay on it.
Emergency Management. Glenn's currently in the position.
Doesn't matter to me if somebody would like to have that, doesn't matter. I'll stay on, or if somebody else would rather have it, that's fine.
Not hearing any volunteers. Congratulations, Glenn.
Thank you.
Parcel Committee, we don't have an appointment to that. Joint Advisory Board, currently is Jim and Kim.
I'll stay on.
Jim will stay on that.
I'll stay on,
We have 2 appointments on that.
yes.
Is there anybody else that's interested in that committee that would like to be on it? Okay, it'll be Jim and Kim. Next is the Personnel Committee.
George, how many's on that
That's not
now?
active.
Personnel,
Too many.
Yeah, they're on that
at
one.
least 9.
Oh, it is active.
Don't you think that ought to be eliminated down to about maybe 5 or?
Yeah, 3 to 5. Yeah, we need to.
At this point, do we even need a personnel committee?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I think we absolutely do. Absolutely. Because we're going to be getting this report back on these job factorings that someone's going to have to sit down as a committee
Yeah.
and review them and implement them.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And I think, my belief is that the Personnel Committee needs to be comprised solely of elected officials who are responsible to the taxpayer for their tax dollars on distributing these funds when we get the reports, when we get these reports back. So I guess I would like to see that Personnel Committee go down to a 5-person committee. I mean, George, you're already on it, right?
Right.
And then we've got 3 councilmen on it, add another councilman for a 5-member committee.
Would it be best to have Jana also on that?
We have 4 members on it, would that create a situation?
If you have a tie, that'd be the thing.
You need 3 or 5, I think.
That's why I suggested
Yeah.
we add another to it to make it 5.
You could have, if you had 5, you could have 2 council member, 2 commissioners and Jana, or you could have 1 council member and 1 commissioner and Jana. But Jana probably needs to be involved because she's going to be the one working directly with
Right.
the person, if this guy continues or whoever is.
I would propose that it be 4 council members, 1 commissioner, and then Jana could be on it as a non-voting member. But I still think those decisions need to be made by elected.
We get any conflict there for having 4 commissioners, or 4 councilmen on? I don't think we can do that.
Because the open door law, right?
Oh, yeah, okay.
2 and Jana would work.
Well, the same way with,
Well, 3 may be enough on a committee.
I think it would be. A councilman, a commissioner, and
if
Jana.
it works as well as we hope it's going to work.
Yeah.
So just leave it like it is unless somebody else wants to replace somebody.
1 commissioner?
So 3 councilmen and then you and Jen. So
No,
total
you're
of 5.
thinking 1 of each,
1
aren't you?
commissioner, 2 council members.
I think, I'd just go for 1-1-1.
I think you gotta have an odd number. You can't have 4. You gotta have.
That'd be 3, 1
Well, if you-
council, 1
if you take a
commissioner,
vote,
1
you don't-
Jana.
I would like to see 5 people on it, and with the idea of including Jana.
Well, I don't know. We have to decide that today on that particular, but it's something that probably needs to be decided
Yeah, what I'd
next
like to
month.
do is take it to the commissioners meeting, and see what kind of input that they have also, and then we can bring it back to council.
Okay.
Between the 2 of us, maybe, to the conclusion of it, we decide. That, by that time, we'll have our report from MRF,
Yeah.
or MDF also at that point.
So we're going to table the personnel committee until further.
But I will say this, though, you could have 3 councilmen in a room and not have a quorum. The 4th is the issue.
Yeah, it's 4 you gotta stay away
So
from.
you could have your 5 and still have 3 councilmen.
I think that committee would be better served with 5 people rather than 3. But we'll table that, and we'll move to the Planning Commission. Chad, you're currently on that.
Yeah, I got a full plate, so I'd be happy to give that up if someone has any interest in doing that for a year.
I'll set on that for a year, if there's no one else. Anybody else? Region 3A non-executive, we eliminated Region 3A development, which was Bill Overdeer, we eliminated it. Redevelopment Commission is currently, we have one assignment to that, and that's Bill Overdeer.
I'd love to see Kim Wheeler on the redevelopment commission.
That's something you're interested in, Kim?
I show an interest in it.
Bill, are you still interested in that position?
Yeah, I'd like to stay on it.
So we have two people that are interested. So how do we handle that? We just go to a vote?
Both of them on it.
You can put two people on it?
Yeah. Is there a reason why there can't be two?
We only had one appointment, don't we?
We do.
You guys have
There's
some.
only one appointment to it. Council.
Have you appointed yours yet? All yours?
Yeah.
What's the logistics and what are we saying we cannot only have but one?
John, do you know on that, whether we can have an additional on redevelopment?
Yeah, I know, I was just, I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I'm sure, to be honest about it.
It's always been 5. I don't know if that is statute or not.
Well, when that started, it was strictly council and commissioners on that. When that thing started, because you and I were on it,
Yeah.
and all 3 commissioners were on it. Then that changed.
I don't know how it got to where it
Well,
is now. It's
it got to where, when the SEI come, it changed.
We've got one commissioner, one council.
They started having somebody on the school board, and they started having, it's changed, but it started out, it was just us.
The school board is a
It's
non-voting.
not on our committee list.
Thor, if we've just got one, we're gonna have to pick one.
Yep.
We have to do it by a,
Janet?
Yeah.
Okay, I looked up the statute, and it says, a unit may establish redevelopment controlled by a board.
So we'd have to have 2 more.
And
How does business operate now, George? Do you see that as being a 7-person board, or you think 5 is adequate?
5 is always, we do have a member of the school on that also.
you mean you got 5 plus a non-voting member?
Yeah.
Well, that would take a change other than what we can do here today, so I guess it would come down to us deciding as a body to have Bill or Kim on it. Am I right? We just go to a vote, or how do we do it?
I just think as far as the committees go, I think it's a good thing to change once in a while, so, everybody gets a little insight of what the county's all about as far as committees and everything, so I know Bill has served on it for quite a few years.
Ever since it was formed,
Wow.
which is one reason I'd like to stay on it, because I got a pretty good history of what we have done.
So I guess I'll leave it up to the council.
But if the council would like to change that, I have no problem with that. But I would be certainly willing to stay on it.
Call for a vote for a decision between the two.
Okay, at this time, we'll call for a vote for a decision between the two, Bill or Kim. All those in favor of Bill remaining on the board, respond with the showing of your right hand. And all those in favor of Kim being on the board, right hand.
Okay.
And Kim won 4 votes to 2. Kim abstained. All right, the Senior Citizen Board, which on this sheet here says Glenn LaRue, but that was actually last year. John Barrett was the representative on there this year.
I would like for somebody to take my place on that. I have a scheduling conflict on the Monday morning meetings.
So we need someone on the Senior Citizens Board. I am currently on it, but I'm on there as an at-large elected position already on the board, so I cannot fill it. Otherwise, that would leave our board short at the Senior Center. And I do currently serve as the president of that board.
Glenn, you've been on it in the past. Do you want to be back on it?
I would take it if nobody else wants it, but there again, I agree with Kim, it's good to kind of pass this stuff around a little bit so everybody has an understanding a little bit about what they do and the importance or lack of importance in their own mind. But I'd be willing to take it if nobody else wants it.
We got some big things coming down the railroad this next year out there. It's exciting.
It's a very neat, rewarding board to be on it. It's just a scheduling conflict with myself on it that I can't do the Monday morning meeting.
Congratulations, Glenn.
Sounds like it. Yeah, thank you.
Maybe that, having your name in there was just a
Omen.
meant to be, yeah.
An omen.
Yeah. Solid Waste Board, which Glenn is currently on.
I would like to kind of stay on there. I got some things that I'm looking into that I like to follow through.
Does anybody else have interest in the Solid Waste Board? And Glenn was elected. EDC Board, it's currently held by Chad, or Chad's currently on that.
Yeah, this is one that I'd be willing to stay. I'd also be willing to give it up. I do have a full plate, so if somebody else would like to sit on that board, I'd be happy to step aside. I'm also happy to stay.
I'd be willing to if you want out of it.
That'd be just fine.
Okay.
Anybody else have interest on the EDC?
You see you took that, Bill?
So that'll be Bill over here.
Yeah.
The Local Emergency Planning Commission, which is John. That's another I had a question about, John. What is that committee or commission?
Work closely with the different, it's a board that has to do with the emergency management on it. You work closely with our EMA director and they make recommendations, and then if that board approves it, then she will bring it in and present it here for both with commissioners and council for approval.
Is that something?
Is there any other appointments to that?
What's that?
Is there, like the city or anybody else belong to that?
Yes,
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
I think it's about it's a large committee that meets.
Large quorum.
Yeah, on it, and you got representatives from the city, both Churubusco, South Whitley, and Columbia City.
Sure.
And different areas.
Sure.
I will stay on that if needed.
John wants to stay on there. Is there anybody else that's interested in being on it? And John will stay on it. And that should take care of all our committees, correct?
Looks like it.
All right, and you'll get new lists out.
George, you staying on the investment board?
All right, that brings us to transfers. Let's do that first in the salary ordinance amendment. Does this call for a motion?
We're
We approved them, but we didn't approve the salary ordinance.
I move we approve the salary ordinances as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? This time I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, respond by raising your right hand. And it is unanimous. this one just requires my signature?
That's just the request.
So does this, that doesn't need to be passed. And now the transfers. Circuit Court is requesting, are they here? No. Circuit Court is requesting transfers from 4 different accounts. One out of the supplies account for $115.50, one out of the Pauper transcript for $480.85, one out of printing for $309.33, and one out of dues and prescriptions of $120. And they are transferring those to Pauper Attorney at the amount of $115.50, Chin's at $480.85, Chin's Pauper Attorney at $309.33, and Pauper Attorney at $120.
Jen, I'm a little frustrated by this so early in the year. What's going on?
What happened is, they had some bills that they were gonna pay at the beginning of the year, so they encumbered these funds. Well, they need those funds that they encumbered transferred to these other line items to pay those bills. Had the money, just not in the right line items when they encumbered it, so that's why these transfers are being done.
Unusual to be doing this in January.
Right, yeah, but yeah, it's because of the encumbrance.
Yeah.
Call for a motion for the transfer resolution.
So moved. No, move the approval.
Call for a second.
I'll second.
A motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the transfer resolution respond by raising your right hand, and it passes unanimously. Okay, I'm going to have you explain this because I'm not real sure on, I mean, I know what it is, but I'm not sure how it's being done, so tell me about it.
Okay, so what happened is when you guys approved the budget, there was a line item in public safety and sorry. Oh no, public safety and the jail, okay, to make a sergeant for the different shifts. So we have a sergeant for deputy, sergeant for each shift. There was a line item that was created with just the additional funds in it. Well, we're pretty much just moving that money to a different line item, to kind of eliminate that. Right, Jody?
It's not creating a new position or anything.
Right.
We didn't know who would have that position, so all we did was fund the difference.
So we're not funding 54,869 and 45,429, we're just funding 2,332.19 and 1,682.65.
That's their bi-weekly amounts.
We're just moving it from the
Oh.
person that got the job from their old line item to their new one.
So we're eliminating their old position and creating a new position
Right.
with the enhanced,
It's just moving the money.
with the enhanced money for their supervisory role.
Yes.
So the salary,
Those are being zeroed out. Just because they're
so the salary ordinance amendment is simply eliminating a position and then reassigning it at the approved position for the salary increase for a supervisory role. I would call for a motion for the salary ordinance amendment.
I move we approve it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor respond by raising your right hand, and it passes unanimously. And just a signature on the top page, that's all you need?
Keep that one
Yeah,
out there.
better keep that one.
Is that all that you have there?
This is it.
Oh. The 2018 meeting schedule for the Whitley County Council, with all meetings beginning at 8 a.m. is before you, and we need to approve this.
But you had already approved it at the December meeting, but we added the packet information deadline that we talked about at the meeting in December. I added those dates in there, and then I will send it out to everyone as soon as you. Dates.
This is what we received by email from you?
Yes.
I move we approve it.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I would bring up at this time, I would ask the board for consideration on anybody's opinion on moving our meetings from an 8 a.m. meeting to an evening meeting to be more transparent to.
I oppose to it for this reason. We've got all our department heads here. They have to appear to get money. I don't think we need to ask them to come back in here. We've had spatial meetings through the years involving wheel tax, and other things that we adopted, controversial type things, building the jail and whatever. And I think we still could have evening meetings when we have something like that comes up. But I said, for the routine things we do, I think it's just more convenient for the department heads and for the employees to have it continue at the same hour.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We talked about this one time when I first got on the council, and at one time, they, as I understood, they did, Bill, you may know, Jim, you may know, we did have some evening meetings, and nobody showed, we didn't get any.
Didn't get anybody.
We didn't get anybody there.
Unless it's a controversial.
You get something like the wheel tax, we had it at the 4-H center, and the place was full. So we have done that over the years, and I know on the jail, we met in the courtroom, the old courtroom, and had a good crowd there, and that was in the morning, but that was, I don't think that was, we did have an evening meeting though, maybe two.
We might have, I don't really remember.
But we did have one, I know in the daytime, our meeting was moved up there because there was a big crowd, but, so we have, had evenings at times when it was necessary.
Very unusual.
George, one question. I know the commissioners have met with their meetings at the different schools around here. How was that received, and what are your thoughts on maybe a joint council commissioners meeting in front of, say, the government class at Terabusco or Columbia City? Or
I think that's a great idea, because there's a lot of good questions that come out of that, and I think the kids, they learn exactly what the commissioners do. There's still a lot of questions, but at least to get.
You have had them at the school before?
Yeah.
Well, I know you had one Southwick Library, and I thought, well, I'll go to that because you're down here, and I was the only one there besides the commissioners. So I don't think that was very.
We did a joint.
I really like your idea,
once.
John, of doing it for like the government class.
Right.
Or as a school assembly, if we could even get an interest in that.
The one I attended was at the Terabusco School on it. They had it in the auditorium. The commissioners were up on the stage on it.
Usually get
My goodness, there was some questions that come out of the government class or the student body that they had given some serious thought to it on it, and I really like that format.
I think we did a joint council commissioners meeting at a school once. I can't remember.
I don't remember it ever doing
I
it.
kind of.
Would the board be open to setting up 3 separate meetings for the 3 different high schools in our county?
That takes 3 meetings, takes three of our 12 meetings. I think that's kind of excessive to be away from the courthouse. I can see the commissioners doing it because they have 2 a month. If they want to do it and we want to go participate, I'd rather do it that way rather than have a called council meeting. I hate to take 3 of our meetings out to the.
Any other opinions on that?
Well, one of the reasons for not doing it is the same reason for having it in the daytime. We got all our department people are here if we need them.
I think if the commissioners did that, and at least the large council members or those that represent a particular district, like if it was at Whitco, I would attend that meeting. And if it was at Terabusco, I would assume John would, and like I said, and Glenn would here. And then, the large people could go to all of them or any of them or whatever. But I'd rather have it be basically a commissioner meeting, and we just be there or have a representative there if we wanted to do that, rather than have a joint meeting. Because, if we're going to have requests from department heads, I don't see any reason for them to come to Whitco or Terabusco to do that, to put their presentation on. Here at Columbia City, it wouldn't be too much of an inconvenience, but it would be if they had to go to either of the other 2 schools.
Well, I guess I'm hearing enough opposition to it that we'll leave it be for another year at least. Unless, of course, you would initiate something, and I'd be more than happy to participate.
I'd be happy to participate as well.
With that being said, how does the board feel about having our department heads at our meetings? We only meet once a month, and all our department heads at the meetings to give a brief report on what's going on with their department and keeping us in touch and having a face-to-face contact with them.
Well, for me, I wouldn't like it, but, I mean, I like it the way it is, but that's just one opinion. I just don't want to be, well, I don't want to hurry a meeting, but then I just don't want to be sitting around here just listening to a bunch of stuff till 11 o'clock or noon that is not important really to us. You know, if they've got something, it is, but if they're just coming in here just to, they've got things to do and we've got things to do, and I just don't know how productive it would be. I could stop and talk to them on my own one if I have a question. It's not that hard to do, and I do occasionally.
There might be something we want to have them come maybe every other month or so.
Spread them out over the year rather than have them all here at one meeting. I guess what I'm trying to say would be better.
Absolutely.
Okay, I had brought it to you guys a while back. Rather than having, the departments, maybe each one of you has a certain, and you are their liaison. If they have an additional appropriation request, they go to you and talk. When we go through budget time, they go to you, they review their entire budget with you. That way you have a little bit more background. Our counties that do this, and they said it works very, very well.
I'm not against that, but however, the problem that I have is that I would think it's like starting a message at one end of a pew, if you will, and the time it gets down to the other end, it's completely different. Sometimes, and I understand it'd be better for two of us to understand what's going on, but they still would need to be here. Because you're not going to remember, or you're not to forget something very vital.
Well, that'd be all right to do that, but I agree with Glenn. They need to be here if they have something to present, because if you're in charge of the highway and you come and talk about it, I may ask some questions for him too. So, I mean, like I say, it's all right to have that liaison relationship there.
Yeah.
But I still think they need to be at the meeting if they've got a request, because others may have questions. Well, and I'm not opposed to that idea.
No, I'm not opposed to that either.
That's all good discussion, but I guess at the end of it, we do have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion on adopting these dates and times for our schedule this year? And I would like to say that the packet information deadline is simply a way of allowing your councilmen to do a better job in making timely decisions. When we meet once a month to get our packet information in this time frame that we're asking, gives us adequate time to do research. So we're not making snap decisions that maybe aren't good decisions, or it appears sometimes when we put something off to the next month that we're concerned with making a decision over it, and I know that bothers some people. So this time frame here is simply a means to allow us to gather information and to do our homework on the issues at hand as they come up. This doesn't mean that if there's something that comes up that needs to be addressed at a monthly meeting, that it cannot be presented to council outside of this time frame, but that will certainly be the exception and not the rule. With that being said,
Well said, thank you.
I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of adopting the schedule, respond by raising your right hand. and it passes unanimously. I would also, even though it's not mandatory, I would like to encourage all our department heads to be at all our meetings, just for the fact of stuff that comes up from one department that might bleed over to another department, so they would be here and available to answer questions. That's just a request that I would have. It certainly wouldn't be looked at negatively as far as being here at our meeting and not being behind your desk or whatever your job would be for that day. All right, thank you. And we'll move on then to our next item on the agenda, which is the Commissioner's Report.
Okay, the first thing I'd like to do is present our new coordinator, HR person, Angie Campbell. She started yesterday. It was her first day. She'll do a great job for us.
She's still here, that's good.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Just a couple of things that I've got here is we've got some policy changes that Angie has that we approved yesterday through the commissioners. One is for donation of time and the ability of HR to make emergency decisions, because there's a lot of times that even within our 2-week time that we have our meetings,
We don't
that
do anything with that now, we just got that
emergencies that people
information,
will
I
need to
think.
take off.
Looks
and
like
they
it's
don't
gotta be
have
done by
time.
June.
The people will donate their time towards them. Then the other thing is longevity or for elected officials and employees when they go from a elected official to employee, what happens with their time when they go from employee to elected official. So you'll see that in red are all the changes. If an elected official becomes a full-time employee without a break in continuous service, paid time off will be calculated by taking the calendar year minus the year of the employee's initial start date of service with Whitley County to determine the employee's length of service category and the earning PTO schedule. If an active full-time employee becomes an elected official with Whitley County, the employee will be paid out in accordance with separation of employment provision in this PTO policy upon the last day of the full-time employment. It just takes the gray area and makes it a little bit more clear. The next one we have is on the donation of PTO time. If the coworker has personal or non-personal health-related crisis requiring additional time off and has exhausted all of their PTO time, as far as that the coworker doesn't have to be approved by county commissioners at this time, that the HR person can make a decision in an emergency to donate the PTO time from one person to the other.
Is there a limit on the number of hours that can be donated by one person to another in any certain period of time?
Yes, there is. I'd have to go through that, Thor. No coworker receiving donated PTO time can receive more than 450 hours within the calendar year.
So one person could give them 450 hours now, or is it?
Sure. If they had it. And additionally, an employee may voluntarily donate PTO bank time to a coworker's PTO bank if the coworker has exhausted their own PTO bank time. An employee may donate PTO time to a coworker's PTO time only if approved by the Human Resource Director. Just had something like that come up this last week that brought forward that we need to pin down a few items in our policy. So we did approve this as of yesterday, but we wanted to make the council aware of policy. The only other thing I have is we have January 10th, we have a jail task force meeting, and we're coming up on our time. January 23rd is when we're supposed to have our program out for the state, and we're not going to be able to do that, but we are moving forward, and thanks to the council for the additional 2 jailers. It shows that we are moving forward, and we'll be talking to the head of DOC to make sure that they're aware and ask for a continuance for another 6 months. Well, I've got any questions of the commissioners? I'll be staying on as chair. Don Amber will be vice chair for the next year. Council.
All right, thank you, George.
Thank you, George.
That will move us to the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes as they were presented to you?
I move that they be approved as written.
I have a correction. Under the commissioner's report, on the very last line, it shows that we passed it with a 3-0 vote. That should be a 7-0 vote.
Oh, right there.
So with those amendments, I will second the motion.
Glenn, will you amend your motion to?
I will,
include that correction?
I will.
Any additional corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, this time I would ask for a vote. All those in favor of accepting the minutes, raise your right hand, and it passes unanimously. At this time, I would ask, is there anybody in the audience that has anything to add for the good of the cause today of our monthly meeting? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting.
Yeah.